So it's been 1 week since Nintendo showed off what it was at E3, though last week I talked about the new characters for Smash Bros. Ultimate. Well, some time has passed and I think it's time I gave my 2 cents on what I'm looking forward to. These are the games that caught my attention. First off, for anyone who's a fan of Yooka-Laylee, we have a new entry in the franchise, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. Unlike the last game, which was a nod to Banjo-Kazooie, this one is more of a nod to Donkey Kong Country Returns, and personally, I like this approach more than the original. Maybe it's me, but I still prefer straightforward 2D adventures to 3D collectathons. This game will release sometime later this year. Second off, this is a big finally! Final Fantasy VIII is coming to the Switch, but surprisingly, this is a total remastering of the game, making it look more like a PlayStation 2 title instead of a PlayStation 1 game. But you won't have to wait for long. Final Fantasy VIII is also due out later this year, finally completing the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy trilogy. Now all we need are the first 6 Final Fantasy games, and maybe the original Final Fantasy Tactics. But that's not the only Square Enix title coming out. To my big surprise, Seiken Densetsu 3 is being remade from the ground up as an original title, Trials of Mana. This was something I didn't even see coming at all. Amazing what a simple direct video can show off. This game will be due out in March of 2020 for anyone who's a fan of the Mana series. But if you're more of a purist, the original Super Famicom Seiken Densetsu 3 has been ported to the Nintendo Switch alongside the Game Boy Final Fantasy Adventures and the Super NES game Secret of Mana, all under the Collections of Mana. This set is out now on the Nintendo eShop, but at $40 for all 3 games, it is on the pricey side. And I just remembered, Square Enix also decided to port The Last Remnant onto the Switch as well. Amazing! Square Enix has become full of surprises when it comes to the Switch lately. I wouldn't be surprised if Kingdom Hearts was coming to the Switch as well. As for The Last Remnant, it's out now at a mere $20. Not bad for a last generation port. Not bad at all. But Square Enix isn't the only company full of surprises. Sega, of all companies, has announced a remake of the original Saturn classic Panzer Dragoon. With Nintendo being silent about a future Star Fox rail shooter, this might be the taste of rail shooting that I need. This game is supposed to be due out before the year's end. Maybe we'll get Zwei, Azio, and Orta on the Switch as well. If I'm lucky. Another surprise also came out of Konami of all companies. There's a new Contra game coming out that is similar to Neo Contra on the PlayStation 2. It looks a little weird and wacky to be a Contra game, but then again, I may check it out in the future. Contra Rogue Corps is due out on September 24th, though if you're not a fan of 3D Contras, there's always the Contra collection out now. And it was bound to happen. The Spyro Reignited trilogy is finally coming out to Switch. For the first time ever, Switch owners can experience all 3 of Spyro's PlayStation 1 adventures on the go. It will be due out on September 3rd of this year. A shame that you need to download the rest of the game if you have the physical version, though I heard a rumor that the European version of this game might have it all on one cart. But one game that will be on one cart is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Actually, that's an understatement. They're cramming the entire game plus all of its DLC onto one cart. Good on CD Projekt Red for going the extra mile. This game is due out later this year. Maybe now is the time to get into the Witcher series. If you do, I recommend buying the first 2 games on GOG.com. Now, there were a lot of games that Nintendo talked about during E3. A lot of these caught me off guard. Some were expected, but as I stated in an earlier video, I can't cover everything that comes out of the House of Mario. Mainly because there is so much to see for the Switch. I have never felt so overwhelmed when it comes to a video game system at all. And this is coming from someone who has been gaming on Nintendo since the NES. But even so, I'm not going to let that get the best of me. As I am moving towards more of a game recommendation-like system in the future, I will try to play one game at a time and showcase the games I highly recommend you check out, be it on YouTube or on Twitch. You may see me talk about less gaming announcements, but that's okay. I want to focus more on the now and less on the future. Whatever happens to me in future Switch watches, only time will tell what I will bring to the table. Now, before I go, an announcement. My next Switch watch is going to be a rant at Bethesda and a plea for Fallout 3 or New Vegas on Switch. And this is coming from someone who has tried out Fallout 76. Anyway, I'm switching on out of here. I apologize for the downer ending.